Each First Nation will get a base amount adjusted for population, remoteness, and community well-being.
Tonight, details on the $305 million for Indigenous communities.
We really want to be proactive and make sure that the people on the streets are being taken care of.
And frontline workers in Montreal call for help to protect homeless people during the pandemic. Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau outlined a new emergency fund to offset the loss of salaries due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Minister Mark Miller offered details on the $305 million for Indigenous communities. Here's Jamie Pashagumskum in Ottawa.
The Prime Minister announced people who can't work because of COVID-19 are eligible for $2,000 a month for 4 months. He said an application portal will be available soon, and applicants can expect payment 10 days after applying.
We are hopeful that the system will be up and running by the 6th of April, and that checks or the direct deposits will be flowing days after that. We recognize that that is a ways off still, and there are people who stopped working a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, that are now receiving their last paycheck and not knowing when the next money is kind of coming in. We recognize that. We're looking for ways to help people bridge through credit or other measures their ability to make it to the arrival of the Canada Emergency Response Benefit.
Meanwhile, at the COVID-19 Cabinet Committee meeting, Indigenous Services Minister Mark Miller elaborated on the $305 million for Indigenous communities. He says the money is for their own unique needs.
The First Nations portion of this is $215 million. Each First Nation will get a base amount adjusted for population, remoteness, and community well-being. The Inuit portion is $45 million and will flow to each of the 4 Inuit land claim organizations through an allocation determined by ITK and regional leadership. For Métis, there will be an amount of $30 million, which will flow through each governing member.
The remaining $15 million will go to regional, urban, and Indigenous organizations supporting those who live away from their communities. Miller also applauded Indigenous communities taking initiative to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
We've seen a lot of measures taken by communities to protect their populations, from closing their borders to declaring local states of emergency. I want to recognize their important work and the strength that they have shown. But let me be clear, this is just the beginning.
Jamie Pashagumskum, APTN National News, Ottawa.
With over 1,300 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Quebec, every region of that province has been affected. Recently diagnosed people from First Nations seem to have contracted the virus under similar circumstances. Lindsay Richardson explains.
Even after enacting a lockdown and severely restricting public meetups, COVID-19 is continuing to propagate in Quebec through person-to-person contact. And according to Canada's Public Health Agency, over half the Canadians afflicted with the virus caught it in a community setting. First Nations in Quebec now grappling with the sickness are equally concerned about where the virus is contracted.
Overnight, the Cree Health Board confirmed its first positive case of COVID-19, a medical patient housed here in a Montreal hotel who had recently sought treatment at a downtown hospital. The recent spike in hospital-related cases of COVID-19 is increasing calls to better protect frontline workers. In Kahnawake, 5 people tested positive, including patients and a staff member at the local hospital. 7 local peacekeepers are also in self-isolation, and task force officials say they're short on protective gear. With the number of cases accumulating, Kahnawake says there aren't enough free hands or materials to lend to their sister community of Ganazadage, which is in lockdown as of this writing. In response, the province tried to assuage concerns about protecting both healthcare workers and patients. We have all the necessary protective equipment, Premier François Legault said Wednesday, but they're working to correct ongoing issues with distribution. For its part, Kahnawake introduced a $9 million relief fund to support those laid off or in self-quarantine. With no confirmed cases in remote First Nations communities, the Cree Health Board hopes the virus won't affect those outside of the hotel, thousands of miles away. With the most confirmed cases of any Canadian province, leaders in Quebec say they'll continue to mobilize to keep COVID-19 central, hoping that the numbers ebb in the coming weeks. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Kahnawake, Mohawk Territory.
Frontline workers say that not enough is being done to protect homeless people in Montreal from COVID-19. The homeless population of Canada's second largest city is disproportionately Indigenous. Tom Fenario has more.
This is Montreal's Resilience Centre in happier times. The day centre opened last November to serve the Indigenous homeless population, which is becoming increasingly difficult during the COVID-19 crisis.
It's going to go rampant in the homeless community, and we really want to be proactive and make sure that the people on the streets are being taken care of.
Nagwasit is co-manager of the Resilience Centre. She says the staff is doing the best they can, but they need more help.
If we're allowed to have the service of testing here, then we could pass on that message, and we would also have a way to refer people saying, hey, we got your test results back, you need to go right away to the isolation unit.
Montreal does have public testing in the downtown core for people who have symptoms. But even if homeless or vulnerable people do go, Nagwasit notes few of them have phones to be reached at if the results are positive. On Tuesday, a homeless man who tested positive for COVID-19 was found by police outside of a food bank. An isolation and screening unit at a closed hospital is being prepared by the city, but is not ready yet. John Tessier works for the Open Door, another day centre that serves many Inuit. He says asking folks living on the street to practice social distancing isn't always practical, especially when places they would frequent, like 24-hour cafes, are closed.
If there's a crew that sleeps all outside together huddled up, there's not a lot of sense for us to tell them to separate when they come into the shelter. So it's just like if you live with somebody, you're able to be with them.
Tessier adds that the Open Door only has enough hand sanitizer to get them through this week. Meanwhile, in his daily address, Quebec Premier François Legault says the province has the medical supplies, but distribution has been difficult. He also added this about the homeless population.
On est très conscient du défi, puis on en discute, puis on s'en occupe actuellement.
For Resilience Montreal, the hope is help will come sooner rather than later. Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Montreal.
The 2020 North American Indigenous Games are the latest major event postponed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Organizers announced today the Games, which were set to take place in Halifax starting July 12th, won't be happening now until next year. The plan is to push the Games back to the summer of 2021. Organizers say that those athletes who qualified for this year's Games will remain eligible to compete at the rescheduled Games. That includes athletes who will have aged out by next summer. The chair of NAG is disappointed in having to postpone, but says it will be worth the wait.
This is a postponement. Yes, we know it is disappointing. It's disappointing to all of us. We were putting our hearts and souls into hosting you this year. But you know what? It's going to be all the sweeter next year when we welcome you to Jipuktuk, Halifax, Nova Scotia, on Mi'kmaq territory. We can't wait to see you.
Teachers and students are having to get crafty in learning while in isolation. We'll tell you how some of them are doing it when we come back after the break. And here's a look at tomorrow's weather in the east and central regions. Starting off on the east coast, we've got 1 and cloud for St. John's, 1 and mix of sun and cloud in Charlottetown. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, cloudy and 5 degrees. Kuujjuaq -12 and snow. Sept-Îles, 4 degrees and sunshine, 5 and sunny in Quebec City. Sault Ste. Marie, snow and 3 degrees. North Bay, cloud and 4. Sioux Lookout, mostly sunny skies and 0. Kapis Casing -4 and some snow. The Pas is mostly sunny and 1 degree. 0 for Pucketawag and Thompson and God's Lake. Winnipeg 0-2 with snow, 4 and cloud for Brandon. Swift Current 6 degrees and sunny skies. Same with Estevans, 4 and sunshine for Saskatoon. Buffalo Narrows is going to be 1 and snowing, -1 and snow for Stony Rapids.
Hello. The current COVID-19 pandemic is an immense challenge facing the entire world, and it must be treated as such by all people. The Assembly of First Nations has declared a state of emergency for all of our people in First Nations. We need to do everything possible to prevent its transmission. Look, I know how much we enjoy gathering for our round dances, our powwows, our feasts, and our ceremonies. But chiefs, councillors, young people, old people, men, women, no matter where you live, take this seriously. Everyone must stay home and self-isolate, as public health officials are telling us to do. Essential service providers are the only non-residents who should be entering our communities, as well as the remote and isolated territories. Essential service providers only. We are advocating strongly to governments to ensure that financial and human resources are in place to meet the needs of First Nations, regardless of where you live. To our young people, you have one shot at this. Do not go out. This is no joke. The coronavirus is killing people. If you go out, you could catch this virus from one of your friends, and without knowing it, you'll bring it home to your family and pass it on to your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunties, your uncles, and your grandparents. Break the cycle from your friends and stay home. You can FaceTime, WhatsApp, Snapchat, or whatever on social media until this threat has passed. And as for our old people, our elders, the kindest thing you can do for them is ensure they have what they need so that they don't have to leave their homes until this threat has passed. This could take months, and we need to look out for each other through these times. Understand you are all part of a massive global effort to stop a fast-moving killer disease. We have to do this. We can't deviate. Stay home and self-isolate. We must stay united to tackle this challenge. We must help each other, be patient with each other, and care for each other. We'll get through this together. Egose, thank you.
Welcome back. Despite having the highest rate of infectious disease in Canada, Nunavut remains the only federal jurisdiction without a single positive case of COVID-19. Nunavut Premier Joe Savikida has been briefing residents daily from the Nunavut Legislative Assembly. Today, he announced that 166 tests for the virus have taken place. 50 have been returned negative, and 116 people are in self-isolation awaiting results. Nunavut's chief medical officer used a very familiar word to describe how social distancing should take place in Nunavut. Piksik means blizzard in Inuktitut.
The one way for people to think about it is think about how they would react during a piksik, a blizzard. Apologies for my accent. But to, hunker down and wait it out in that same fashion and only go out when it's absolutely necessary.
Residents in Yellowknife are providing some relief to elders in need of supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. Our reporter Charlotte Morit-Jacobs covers this story of generosity in Dunedin.
Yeah, one of those full packs of cookies are good.
There's the usual suspects like toilet paper and hand sanitizer. But what Sheila Champion is doing goes beyond the material value. Across the Northwest Territories, community members like Champion are banding together to help those who may not have the means to get supplies during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Facebook groups are springing up to help elders.
The way the community rallied, it was like, it went from being able to help 50 to being able to help 70 to being able to help 100. And it's not, I'm really trying to keep it confined to the people who are at risk. So if they run out and they need something, they don't have the money to get it, find a way to contact who gave you the bags.
In under 2 weeks, the group has grown to roughly 450 members who have expanded their reach from Yellowknife to nearby communities. The Clecho Friendship Center is lifting spirits with care packages in Bay Island, Bashakon. But during deliveries, APTN learns that groceries only scratch the surface of the needs for elders.
To take a whole bunch of pills like this.
Rosa Matla cares for her husband, Eddie.
I'm scared for him because he's older than, he's over 74 years old, covered that he has really bad arthritis.
She explains that Eddie should bathe once a day, but they've gone without running water since Christmas, with no idea of when it will be fixed. He also has not been able to see a health worker for his weekly needle.
They haven't come here and give him needle yet.
Just wanted to see what you guys want to hear about. We'll be talking about the news and stuff.
After deliveries are made, Cole Attende with the Friendship Center provides community updates as folks socially isolate.
Usually it's not like that around here. People are just out having fun, visiting friends, family. Not like people are just stuck in one home. For the first time, how many years I lived here, it's been a ghost town.
With so much uncertainty, Cole feels lucky enough to still be employed and knows it takes the kindness of many to get through the pandemic as a community.
So one family I used to say, just pray to make it through another day and just make sure you're still alive for another day and just be blessed.
Charlotte Moore-Jacobs, APTN National News, Pechico.
Schools across the country have suspended classes to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Many students have switched to online learning to finish their school year. In the Yukon, APTN's Chris McIntyre met one student who still lives on campus but has nowhere to go.
Marshall Jonas lives on campus at Yukon College in Whitehorse. He used to have to put all his effort in his studies, but now he faces new challenges.
Good, how you doing? I've been, doing the whole hand sanitizing, washing my hands frequently, keeping a distance from people, not really touching things, not like, too much personal stuff, nothing like that.
Jonas is a member of the Chondekwitchin First Nation. He now has to take his courses online to get his credits, and it's an isolating experience.
I'd say that's a big part of the whole thing, is just mentally trying to be strong for it.
Jonas could go back to his family 600 kilometers away in Dawson, but the Yukon government is saying people should not travel to other communities to avoid spreading the virus. So he stays away from his family to reduce any risks.
My father, he's like someone who would be susceptible to catching coronavirus. So I don't really want to bring it home to my family.
With the shutdown of schools and most businesses, Jonas has almost no opportunities to interact with peers.
I guess the things I miss most about before the outbreak was, the social, the whole thing, hanging with your friends, hanging with your dorm mates and taking it easy, or, just, getting ready to go out on the weekend, like, going downtown. It was nice being able to go to the restaurants with your friends in the bars, stuff like that.
As this pandemic continues, Jonas turns to a simpler way to spend his time away from the dorms.
I've walked the trails a bit. That helps a lot. It's good to get out in the stretch. And I have access to a vehicle, so I could drive somewhere if I want. That helps a lot to get out of the dorms.
Jonas will finish his studies next summer if all goes well. Until then, he'll continue to live the lonely life of a student on campus during a pandemic. Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
With this global pandemic and schools closed, teachers and Indigenous knowledge keepers from around the world are stepping up to offer free online lessons on Indigenous knowledge. Priscilla Wolf has more.
Chris Scribe, the director for the Indian Teachers Education Program through the University of Saskatchewan and CEO for Think Indigenous, put a call out for teachers to do online lessons when schools closed.
Put a call out to have a network of teachers and colleagues and friends that are out there. Put a call out asking for people that would volunteer their time to teach a 30-minute lesson, grade specific from K to 8.
It's evolved to not just ITEP alumni and Saskatchewan teachers, but all Indigenous knowledge keepers sharing online lessons.
The response has been like crazy. There has been, right now as of today, we're close to reaching 150,000 people with our post. We have people from all over the world, teachers that are wanting to incorporate Indigenous knowledge. On Tuesday, we had a lesson taught by Eric Smith, who is a master bow maker. Worked with people like Aquaman.
This teacher also answered the call.
Cheyenne Fine Blanket Mitsigaston, Makwastagagan Otsania. My name is Cheyenne Fine Blanket. I am from Makwastagagan First Nation.
The community of Makwasahigan called a state of emergency in November 2019 because of suicides.
That's why I decided to do the medicine wheel teachings and to create a wellness plan for them, because the majority of us are still affected by the tragic losses we've had and 2 students within our school.
Fine Blanket teaches her online lesson about the medicine wheel for her community students.
But a lot of them do still have a lot of grief, unresolved grief. So I wanted to go over the medicine wheel teachings and how could they balance their lives.
The online courses are available online for anyone to access. People can go to Think Indigenous Online Education on YouTube, and they have a Facebook page. Priscilla Wolf, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
COVID-cancelled events are piling up, but the virus couldn't stop the Winter Games from happening in one northern Manitoba First Nation. We'll tell you how they did it after the break. First, here's the rest of your weather for the west and the north. Starting off in northern Alberta, we got 4 in snow for Peace River, 2 for Fort McMurray. 8 in sunny skies for Calgary and Medicine Hat, 7 for Edmonton and Lethbridge and sunshine. Mix of sun and cloud, 9 degrees for Kamloops, 4 in snow in Quesnel. Sandspit, cloud and 8 degrees, 5 and snow for Prince George. Dawson City, -3 and snowing, 1 and snow for Whitehorse. Fort Simpson, 2 and snow, Trout Lake and Fort Laird, 6 and cloud. Nunavut, -18 and snow, Palatec, -16 and snow. Snow for Baker Lake, and -12 degrees, -20 for Repulse Bay and sunny skies. Joe Haven, -18 and snow, Tallyoak, -22 and snow, and we've got mostly sunny skies in Clyde River at -20 degrees. Welcome back. While COVID-19 has canceled a growing list of events, Puckatawagan's Winter Games went ahead over the weekend as scheduled, even bigger and better than most years, albeit a little differently than usual. Organizers decided to hold the games on social media instead. People submitted their entries by photo or video and competed for likes to win cash prizes. Check out these winning jigs. Hand drummers shared their talents. There was tough competition among the cute babies in traditional wear. Young ones doing their best counting in Cree. A highlight for those watching online was the radio call-in competition for moose and duck callers like this. And people posted their cake decorating artistry. And a $2,000 prize went to the best snow sculpture entry. There were some impressive ones. You can watch all of the entries and the winners on the Facebook page. Welcome to your 2020 annual Puckatawagan Winter Games. I promise you, you will not be disappointed if you check out that site. That is all the time that we have for your news tonight. Stay up to date with the very latest on COVID-19 by visiting our special page, aptnnews.ca/COVID-19. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.